Hello everyone, welcome to this short video which is the final one in our series of reflections for Holy Week. We'll be thinking about Maundy Thursday, what we know as Maundy Thursday, and again following Mark's Gospel, what happens to Jesus on that day. Well, of course, Thursday a lot happens. Jesus shares a meal with his disciples, and he particularly shares bread and wine with them. We know this as the Last Supper. And of course it is the basis on which we share communion together in church. But I just want to think of a couple of points that have really struck me rereading this story, going back to the Gospels once again as we prepare for Easter. And the first one is that on that Thursday night in Mark's Gospel, Jesus is first taken to the Jewish council. And they ask him questions, and we talked about questions earlier in the week and sometimes answering and not answering them. But Jesus answers the question. So when he's asked, is he the Messiah? He says, I am. And then he quotes from the book of Daniel. Now, his audience here, the Jewish council, are going to understand this. They literally speak the same language. If Jesus quotes from Scripture, they're going to understand what he's saying and what it is. He's able to communicate with them. And he almost feels, I think, that he needs to answer them. They're his people. They almost deserve an answer, even if they're entirely wrong about who he is. They'll understand what it is that he has to say. Then a little bit later, when Jesus appears before Pilate, he responds very, very differently. So when Pilate asks him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus simply says, you say so. He refuses to answer the question. He refuses to engage with Pilate. And I think it's as if Jesus is saying that he just doesn't accept Pilate's authority. And if he speaks the same language as the Jewish council, he literally probably doesn't speak the same language as Pilate. And that's actually a question that's worth pondering. What language are they speaking? Does Pilate know any Aramaic or any Hebrew? That perhaps seems unlikely. Maybe Jesus knows some Koine Greek, common Greek, so maybe they can converse, but it seems unlikely. Maybe there's a translator and the conversation is more stilted, but Jesus simply doesn't want to answer Pilate. He simply doesn't think that he has anything to say to him. And then the final thing, just say another final quick point, when Peter denies Jesus, the serving girl, as she's described, says, well, you're from Galilee, so you must know him. And actually it doesn't specifically say this in Mark, but it does in Matthew's Gospel. She says she can tell by his accent that he comes from Galilee. Now, Galilee is way up in the north of Israel, and Jerusalem, where they are now, is down in the south. So, did Jesus and his disciples, did they speak with northern accents? People could tell immediately what part of Israel they were from by the way that they speak, just as we can tell often what part of England a person comes from, what part of the UK a person comes from, based on their accent and how they speak. So just think about the thought that Jesus and the disciples spoke with notable northern accents that were different from the accents that people spoke in the capital, in Jerusalem, in the big city, which I think is an interesting thought. It puts them as outsiders within this, from both, of course, from the Romans, but also from perhaps the Jewish authorities, the people of Judea down in the south of Israel. And so that's it for these reflections. I hope that you've found them useful. I think it's always good to follow through the stories again, day by day, of what happens to Jesus as we do prepare to celebrate Easter, the Feast of the Resurrection. But of course the route to the empty tomb and the resurrection has to go through the pain and suffering of Good Friday. So I will see you again. There'll be worship for Thursday evening tonight, and also for Good Friday tomorrow, where we think particularly, of course, about the crucifixion. And then we will, separately but together, be celebrating the resurrection on Sunday. So once again, thank you for watching. Take care and goodbye.